Just very meh. I washed it yesterday. Is this okay? So how's it going? How's your year going? I'm gonna take my old people vitamins. I'm an old people now. So when you get old, you have to do this thing where you take vitamins. I'm ancient now, so that's just my thing. So you can observe. Ooh, that one was hard. I needed a recovery. Okay, so you made it to the next one. Now here's where I'm gonna try and teach you something. So I filmed like a little sourdough starter type video a couple of months ago for work because we were doing this staff skills thing. I work at a theater in Chicago. We don't have any productions right now. We did this staff skills series where a couple of us submitted videos and then our team edited them down a bit and put them on Instagram and YouTube and what have you. So I submitted a video about feeding your sourdough starter and drying it, and I sent that in, and then they cut it down because they wanted to make some arbitrary time limit. Yeah, so this is that, and the intro I filmed is very deer in headlights because it's me. I'm just a strange little bean and I don't talk. So I just wanted to prepare you so that when you saw my vacant expression and my spooky halted movements, you're not taken aback. It was I just wanted to like share the whole video more or less. Hey there, hope you're doing good. I just wanted to make a quick video on how to dry your sourdough starter and then also how to bring it back. And maybe you have a friend or family member that would also like to get into sourdough, but it does take 2 to 3 weeks to make your own sourdough starter, so maybe they want to take a shortcut and just use some of yours. A lot of sourdough bakers really like sharing their starter just because you do end up making quite a lot of it. Do tend to feed your sourdough starter every day if you're a bit of a prolific baker, or maybe once or twice or 3 times a week, and it really depends on how often you bake, but you do end up with a lot of excess. And while there are many ways that you can use it in other forms of baking, sometimes you just want to dry it out and then just have it on the side for later. So I'll just go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. First we need a jar. I usually use recycled jars. As long as they've been thoroughly cleaned, then they can be used for growing our culture. We need a scale that measures in grams. I use grams because it's more accurate and most recipes use them, so I just use grams for everything. We also need a clean spoon and a clean ceramic or glass bowl. I try to stay away from plastic just because it's porous so it can get gross. We also need some dried sourdough starter and some flour and filtered water, but if you only have regular tap water, that should be fine. I measured 15 grams of our dried starter into the bowl, and then I added 15 grams of water. This will give us 30 grams altogether, and we are going to go ahead and just feed this dry starter in a 1:1:1 ratio just to start with. So what we're going to do then is add 30 grams of our flour and 30 grams of water, and we'll just mix that until there is no dry flour left. So we just want to add our flour and starter mixture into a jar, and we're going to leave the lid on but very loosely, and we want to do that so that the gases created by the starter can escape. If they build up, then they could potentially break the jar, and that would be bad. So we just want to make sure it's loose so we don't have any problems. Some people actually cover their jar with cheesecloth or something similar and then secure it with a rubber band. Now that the starter is on its way to be reactivated, we just want to allow it to sit on the counter or in a warm place. My oven actually has a proof setting which just keeps the light on and that allows it to be just a little warm inside, so I'll usually set my starter in there and allow them to develop. Just make sure that you take the baby starter out of the oven before you turn it on, or you could accidentally kill it. A starter is most active at room temperature or up to about 85 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see here that our new starter already has some bubbles going on. My main starter, baby Sourdough, has a lot more activity since it's older and more developed. This starter also usually has a strong, sharp acetone or sour smell to it, which is pretty normal. Starters can develop a wide range of smells, from fruity and sweet to sharp and pungent. These smells can change over time too, depending on the flour you use and when you fed it last. I'm just mixing up another batch of food for the new starter, just in a 1-to-1 ratio without discarding any. I just want to mix this until it's all nice and homogeneous. Now that my main starter has gotten to be fairly active, I am just going ahead and drying it out. I have a baking sheet and I'm covering it with parchment paper. This is a pretty simple process. All that you need to do is pour out your active starter onto the parchment paper and then spread it out. The thinner it can be, then the faster it will dry. I left mine to sit on the table in the sun for a few hours. It can take a day or two for the water to evaporate, so this mostly just takes some patience. Next morning, we can see that the new starter is pretty active. I discarded 60 grams of it, which did not go to waste, and then fed it again the same as before. By the evening, you could see that it had made a lot of growth and was clearly bubbly. It might be good for baking, but I'm just going to feed it again. The wet starter from the day before is getting to be pretty dry. I can easily snap some of the thicker pieces into smaller chunks. This is good progress, but there's still some wet spots. I let this sit again overnight. You can see it's much drier now and even more brittle. If there was any moisture left in the starter, then it could go bad when you store it, which would have wasted all that time. Make sure that your starter is very dry and snaps easily into little crumbs. This starter is dry enough for storage now. Since this starter has dried, we can go ahead and crush it into smaller pieces. You can blitz this in a food processor if you would prefer finer pieces, but crushing them with a rolling pin works perfectly well. When the pieces are crushed to your satisfaction, then you can just pour them into your jar. Now you have dried starter, and it should keep in your pantry for a long time until you need to reactivate it. Here's the starter we made from dry. I made this on Friday, and here's how it looks on Monday. This is a much faster process than making it from scratch, and it should develop a more mature sour tang pretty quickly too. There are some bubbles, but this really needs to be fed again. You can feed your starter a 1-to-1 ratio once a day, or you can just feed it once a week if you don't bake as often. Then you just stick it right in the fridge after you feed it. I made these loaves this morning using my main sourdough starter, and they turned out pretty nice. It does take a little bit of practice and patience, but even failures are tasty, so don't be afraid to try it out. I hope you liked my little spazzy tutorial. Sorry, it was filmed on my iPhone. It's an iPhone 6. Yeah, and unfortunately I'm gonna have a couple more iPhone type videos because I was filming bits of things before I got my fancy camera, so you know, you got that coming up. But yeah, thanks for watching. All right, yeah. Oh, and I suppose I should say like, share, subscribe, comment. Yeah, comment. I'm happy to read through comments. I love comments. All right. Toodaloo. I'm a heart band-aid. It's a heart because I'm loved. Okay. got my avocado toast. Well, it's not avocado toast. Is it toast if it's a croissant? Probably. I think that still counts, right? That's how you know I'm a true millennial. A true millennial, yeah, but I go on like a bargain hunting binge for avocados because they're just ridiculous. I'm not paying $3 for an avocado. I will pay $1 or less. Very rarely do I go beyond these hostage prices. Don't negotiate with terrorists. I want my $1 avocado.